Hello, everyone. We are very happy to our first Slowphone Award. We are here with Raúl Montenegro de Argentina, Mario de Chile, Laura de Mexico, Aline de Brazil, the Slowphone. We are, for the first time, giving this award for a very inspiring organization that not for the year of 2021, but for the last many years have inspiring us around the world to keep our work with safe technology and electromagnetic protection. So we are very proud that in this day to invite Mrs. Teodora Scarato to talk with us. Welcome, Teodora.
Thank you so much. I'm really honored to be here.
We are very happy, Teodora, to this first Slowphone Award to give to the Environmental Health Trust in the year of 2021 for your very important achievements and victories in this year that were very important for us in Brazil and Latin America. So we are very happy to have you here, and we invite you to talk a little bit for how was for you this year for your organization. What are the important highlights of this year? Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. Well, I also want to thank you for your incredible work raising awareness in your community and worldwide. Uh, it is just so important, the work that you're doing, because in order to get where we need to be, we need to have safe technology, but awareness of why we need it and how. So Environmental Health Trust, I'm executive director of Environmental Health Trust. We have been working on this issue for over a decade. I only got involved a decade ago, but Dr. Davis and many of the scientists who are collaborating on this, of course, have worked many years prior. And it is on their work that has helped certainly our organization get to where we are today. So the big achievement that we have, well, we have several this year, but most importantly was our lawsuit victory. We filed against the FCC, which is the US federal agency that sets the limits for and creates the guidelines for wireless radiation from cell phones, cell towers, smart devices, all kinds of wireless networks. And we filed against them for not making the decision not to update their wireless radiation limits. And we had a favorable ruling because the FCC ignored thousands of pages of documents and evidence and calls from experts, including many scientists who might be listening right now, calling for an update to the limits to really protect children and to protect the environment. The FCC, the court, found the United States Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit found that the FCC had ignored the research on the vulnerability of children. Children absorb more radiation. They also are more vulnerable because their brains are developing. They ignored long-term research showing impacts from long-term exposure. They were found to have ignored the impacts to the environment, birds, bees, and trees, all of which is on the record of the FCC, but they ignored it. And also the technological developments since 1996 when those limits were set. So we have a long way to go, but I know that we really are going to get there, especially with the work that you're doing. And I think that by educating people, which is what Slowphone has done, and your community that you've developed, that is how we put the pressure on so that our governments and the companies create safe technology, which is really the solution. And I know that we will get there. So I can answer any questions or talk more about specific things that we're working on as well. We're also working on educating about wireless in schools, having safer technology in schools. We're educating state departments of health. We're working on addressing the Food and Drug Administration of the United States. so that they are honest and transparent about their work. We are working on more legal filings to the FCC. We just filed another legal filing asking them to look at the last 2 years of research, because when they respond to the court, they could ignore the 2020 and 2021 science. And we are requesting that they open up the record again to allow that research. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Maybe we can listen the message of Deborah now. May we?
I'm so sorry I cannot be with you today to accept this first award from Slowphone Brazil. Theodora Scarrato, our executive director, and all of us at the Environmental Health Trust are really grateful to each one of you for making it possible to create this broad public understanding that we all need to be slower and more thoughtful in the way we think about and use technology, so that technology serves us rather than we serving technology. It does take a village to accomplish this, and I'm grateful that Alvaro de Salas and our colleague Claudio Fernandez are also playing such a key role in promoting awareness of this issue. Again, thank you so much, and my special thanks to Theodora Scarrato, without whom none of this would have been possible. All the best to you. I cannot be with you today.
Thank you, Deborah, for your video. She was traveling today, so she sent us this kindly video. So maybe now we can go to the answers and questions and answers. Raúl, Mario, Laura.
Well,
okay, Laura.
Before we go to a very more like technical issues, like how do you file the demand, etc., I would like to ask you, Theodora, how did you started work on this issue? Why did you got interested on this? It's more a personal thing, but I think it's very important to know.
Sure. So I'm a social worker, and I worked in schools directing an intensive therapy program for kids who had emotional disabilities and other issues in their education. And I had a lot of clients and families I worked with where the children had prenatal exposure to drugs, and they had various kinds of brain damage. So, and I also have kids myself. So I first learned about this, I think it was a news article that I saw that said something about cell phone radiation. This was a decade ago. And I kind of got interested, and I said, oh no, that can't be. It can't. I loved my phone. I loved my Wi-Fi. I couldn't even imagine that there could be a problem. And so I started researching it. And the more I read, the more I thought, wait a minute, there is some real, all of these studies are saying that there's harm. What's going on? So then I started contacting my federal agencies in the United States, the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, my state organizations, only to find out that none of them had really looked at the science recently. And it was specifically the science on impact to the brain that got me, because I knew from my work with kids how important it was during pregnancy and during childhood to protect their brains from exposures that could be harmful. And when I saw science showing damage to brain cells and behavior problems and damage to memory, I got more and more involved and started volunteering with Environmental Health Trust with Dr. Davis, actually. And then it sort of just all happened over the last decade. So that's how I got involved. And the only way to fix this is, of course, to address the policy at the federal level. Ultimately, we have to get there. But you can't get there unless you have the awareness of the people to ensure that our government agencies are accountable. So it all happened that way, and here I am. never thought in a million years I would know as much as I know about cell towers in my life.
Thank you very much. And just well, before my colleagues ask you, since Deborah David is not here, could you share with us a little bit how did she started to work on this? And then I want to ask more things.
Oh, sure. So she has long worked on cancer prevention and environmental health issues, and worked on climate change and other issues where there were large corporate companies who were involved, and a complex science, and how it has taken years to get to changes that protected people. So she also worked on lead exposure and so forth. And she tells the story. You can watch this on YouTube videos where she gives presentations about how her grandson, when he was just, I think 1 year old or somewhere around there, picked up her cell phone and started playing with it and knew how to do things on the phone just at such a young age. And she was so proud of him. But then started looking into it herself, saw the research, and became more involved. She actually, when she was at the Pittsburgh Environmental Health Center, she, with Dr. Ronald Herberman, they came out with recommendations for how to reduce exposure to cell phones, as well as how to reduce your plastic or other environmental exposures. And that was really ahead of its time. It was the first of its kind. And so she started working on it, started Environmental Health Trust over a decade ago. And she's testified to Congress, which you can watch, to U.S. Congress in subcommittee hearings for both the Senate and the House on the issue of cell phone radiation. And she's written 3 books, published many papers, but one book in particular is Disconnect, the Truth About Cell Phone Radiation. And she details in the book her investigations of meetings with scientists who found effects, and then details how the science was war-gamed, attacked, the scientists were attacked, and she also details the influence of industry in her book. And so she got involved and just has kept working on it, and also collaborating with scientists in the United States and worldwide on the issue to support independent science.
Thank you very much. We greet Emmanuel from Mexico, Professor Tuzé from Argentina, Josefa de Peru, and Felix de Chile. We're open for more questions. Welcome. Raul, go ahead, Raul.
Okay, I have 2 questions. One is, which are the next steps of the judiciary action in the States? This is one. And the other one is, what do you think about possible collaboration from outside the United States in this judiciary action?
Well, that's an interesting question, your second one. I'll start with the first one. So the next steps are that we need to ensure that the FCC actually responds to the court. They were not given a date by which they have to respond. What they need to do now, according to the court judgment, is re-examine the science and re-examine the record, and then respond as to whether to keep the current limits or to change those limits. So first, that could take years, and we can't wait years. So we need a prompt response. The second piece to that is that we need to ensure that they look at the totality of the scientific data that's before them. They're not a health and safety agency, though. So they need to have experts who have a biological background, environmental background to respond. So that's a whole process. And we're actually calling on the National Academy of Sciences to do a full investigation onto this in order to have a roadmap as to how, what are next steps for our government to really tackle this and give it what it deserves. we're also calling sort of in tandem for there to be a full environmental review on the 5G network deployment in the United States. And I think that every country can do this as well, because there has been no environmental review of what the impact of hundreds of thousands of new wireless small cells, as they are called, which are not small, but antennas, proliferating throughout our communities, near our homes, near trees, near wildlife. Where is the environmental review on not only the radiation that will be coming out of those systems, but also the impacts to the tree canopy, the tree trimming, the root disturbances, the impacts to habitat? And as a recent publication, there's a 3-part series on the impacts to wildlife that came out by Albert Manville, former U.S. Fish and Wildlife biologist Blake Levitt, and Dr. Henry Lai, and they document the impacts to animals and to insects. And they talk about how the air should be habitat. You know, we have animals that live in the air or live in trees, or, you know, birds and bees. They're going to be right there with all of these new antennas. So that is also an angle that needs to be addressed, is the impact to wildlife and the environment. And I think it's one of the most important issues. Well, there are many important issues, but it's a way to raise this issue, is to talk about the impact to the environment, human health aside, because animals will be closer to these antennas than people will be. We're on the ground. I'm not saying, so animals are going to be right there roosting on the cell towers, or short or tall, or the antennas on buildings. And we are certainly always wanting to do a international effort and to organize, not only at the state and the federal level, but internationally. I think this is critically important. So I know there's efforts moving forward to have the United Nations respond, the World Health Organization, and we are glad to be working on that. I'm just thrilled to be on with, I'm really honored to be on with people from around the world right now, in so many countries.
Thank you very much. Raul?
This
You're
will
muted.
take place.
Say that again?
Yes, how many years you think that this judiciary action will demand? How many time?
I don't know. I mean, we don't want it to take another decade. So something else that we're doing is addressing the Food and Drug Administration and going to all of our federal agencies in the United States, ensuring that they're accountable for the expertise, for their area of expertise. So the environmental agencies need to be accountable. What they're saying in the United States right now, the Environmental Protection Agency wrote me and said they don't have a funded mandate. They're not doing anything because there's nothing that they're doing, which is not acceptable. They need to be accountable to protect the environment. And we need to make sure that they have the information showing harm and that they take action on it. And if not, then we need to take more formal action. So that's one way to go, is to address the agencies, the consumer product safety agencies. So whoever in your country is in charge of various areas, that's one way to go in. But the way we are going to get there is by awareness. Because if we don't have the people calling on the elected officials to put pressure on the federal agencies, then the process is not going to go as fast. So it's really up to all of us to take the actions that we're taking to make this move forward. This is, every single person listening needs to take action. Talk to your neighbors, talk to your family, talk to your elected officials, and get involved with the organizations working on this. It's critical.
Okay, many thanks.
Thank you. Someone want to ask next?
Fabiano?
Go ahead.
Sí. Hello, Theodora. Nice to see you again. Well, I'm very happy and proud to participate in such a noble initiative together with Fabiano and my fellow panelists on behalf of my team in a gesture that undoubtedly is a little for the tremendous work that Dr. Davis, Theodora, and the EH Trust have done for us and the planet, trying to shape a better future. I will leave the specific questions for another time. Today, a day of recognition. More than anything else, I would like to know what lies in your hearts to display such tenacity and fortitude in a world that appears more and more upside down. If you were set out again today on this tremendous journey, what would you do better? What would you do again? And definitely, what would you not do again, Theodora?
Ooh, I would not be so afraid, because when I started, I had a lot of fear that, fear of speaking out about this, that maybe I didn't know enough when I was just a parent, working on this 10 years ago. And looking back now, I would have done more and spoken out more, and realized that, had more hope, because there were times when I felt like, how are we going to fix this? Is this fixable? But now I am so inspired, and it is because of everyone who I've met. It is because of knowing all of the people who, and experts and residents, people who have been working on this for years and years and years. And once I learned their stories and all that they had been working on and doing, I was really inspired. So I guess I would say I would just be more inspired, So to everyone listening, if it's your first time hearing about this, sometimes people, they call me and they feel crushed and they feel heartbroken that this is happening, and that more and more devices are coming in. They feel like they can't control it. They can't handle their children's use. They don't know how to fix it in their home. And I would just say one step at a time, and we really can get there. This is like any other environmental issue. We will get there as long as we have hope.
Thank you. I have a question. Theodora, what do you think can be the consequences in other countries of this important victory with FCC? How can the other countries around the world can use this to advance their work?
Well, I think there are a number of things that can be done. I mean, in every country, you want to find out who is setting the rules and how are they setting them. The rules meaning the allowable exposure limit. So if you have a phone, how much radiation is allowed into you. Every country has an allowable amount. Are they using the FCC? Are they using ICNIR, the International Commission for Non-Ionizing Radiation? Did they develop their own limits? And see if there's a place there in terms of regulatory process where you can file a legal action. That'll be different from every country. But what we showed is that the FCC has not looked into all of these issues. They have ignored. They couldn't pull up. They couldn't present a report showing there had been adequate review of the issues I talked about: children, environment, long-term exposure, and so forth. And that is really the situation worldwide. Because when they look at the impact to the brain, what is a safe level for children who are exposed? That's never been developed anywhere by a review of the totality of the science. And we need to start pulling that out. There was no pre-market safety testing for these networks. It was just that we have this assumption that heating is the only harm. The International Commission for Non-Ionizing Radiation Protection has been, an invite-only private club, as it has been described, has been allowed to be considered the final word when they are simply looking at heating and they've dismissed all of the science and they're not addressing the impacts that have been found in all of the scientific studies that have been published. So we just can't have this be acceptable anymore. I think when people find out that the basis for most limits around the world are these small, a handful of animal studies from the 70s and 80s and below, that's unacceptable. So.
Thank you. Laura?
Fabiano.
Laura, well, I just wanted to make a quick comment on this. Well, I've been interested on this for over a year. I'm a biologist, but my PhD thesis was on nanotechnology. And for instance, in the case of nanotechnology, which is considered like a nanomaterial is considered a chemical. For instance, Europe has the REACH, that is their regulation, and they have this no data, no market, right? Which means if you don't show as a developer data that shows that this is not non-harmful, then you cannot sell it. And I think what we are seeing, and we have been talking a lot about this, like you mentioned, there is no research, but I think another big problem, and this is what you are dealing with, is that there is no protocol
Right.
of how to regulate this issue, because
Right.
it's not a chemical, right? It's energy.
Right.
And so I think this is a very interesting thing, and I am sure Dr. Toussaint can talk more about this, but I just wanted to comment this.
Thank you. Raul?
I have three comments thinking in eventual joint work. One is that FCC, and I think the same in other regulatory bodies in different countries, they never included in the impact of, for example, cell phones, of electromagnetic radiation of extremely low frequencies. I am talking about magnetic fields.
Yes.
The cell phones, not necessarily the recent ones, but in the past, they included in the guidelines, in the manuals of each cell phone, information about high frequencies. But they never included about magnetic fields, and even we measured in all the headphones, in all cell phones, very high measurements of magnetic field. This is, I think, is a window also to fight against FCC, but also against our internal regulation body, because they never took in account the extremely low frequencies. This is one of the issues. The second one is that I think is very intelligent from your side to fight against the regulatory body and not to the a lot of corporation. And I think this is a good strategy to be followed by our own strategies in each country. And why not to try to join all different organizations fighting against their local regulatory organization. And the last one comment is that when you have been talking about animals, I think it's very convenient to talk about biodiversity and ecodiversity, because this is a very important issue, that all regulation exclude totally biodiversity and ecodiversity. And I think that this is also a field to be worked, maybe jointly between different organizations in different countries, different scientific organizations and different kind of institutions, because we don't have now, we don't have limits for biodiversity or for ecodiversity. This is my main three comments, that trying to found areas of possible joint works.
I completely agree. And just speaking about like even just phones, the magnetic fields. So just looking at our FDA that is supposed to regulate the electromagnetic energy from consumer devices like a cell phone, they do not deal with magnetic fields, as you mentioned. In fact, we don't have any limits at all that address magnetic fields at the federal level in the United States. And that is really unacceptable because of the fields that come from the phone or the laptop on the lap. So this is a way into our FDA, and it's also the larger issue of course, magnetic fields, which have been found to impact, the way animals navigate and so forth from the electrical distribution lines. So if you look at the history in the United States, which might be similar in other countries, there was research that was really a robust research program on the extremely low frequency fields and magnetic fields. And then it was defunded. The EPA was defunded and limits were never set. And we are without any protections in the United States on this. So I agree. And of course, there are magnetic fields in the wireless, and that's a whole scientific bucket to look into. But
thank you.
Yeah.
Josefa?
Thank you, Theodora. I am a mother from Peru, and I feel identified with what you said about how you started. And I've been working on researching and learning about this topic. I was wondering, as you said, the ICNIRP is this private club, and how would you see that we should go about this worldwide? In meaning, should we, just like thinking really big, should we try to take down ICNIRP, or could it be more effective just to make our own countries stop taking ICNIRP as the only measure, as the only set of regulatory measures? I think maybe this will be faster, right? But is there like a way to think about changing ICNIRP or getting more independent scientists, or how do you see this from the Environmental Health Trust perspective?
Well, I guess there are a couple ways. I don't know the perfect way to address it, but I do know that there needs to be some honesty and awareness about what ICNIRP is, because it has a very big fancy name, International Commission for Non-Ionizing Radiation Protection, and everyone thinks, oh, this must be they are the experts on this. So first would be raising awareness about what ICNIRP is. And Dr. Leonard Hardell has, of course, published several publications on the International Commission for Non-Ionizing Radiation Protection, talking about the origins of it, about how it is an invite-only club. Also, Investigate Europe has done several pieces on 5G looking into ICNIRP. So that's one piece, but also in your country, why are they following ICNIRP, a 13-member group? Once elected officials find out about it, I would hope that they would make some changes to ensure that all of the science is really looked at. Because if you look at the documents that ICNIRP puts forward, these are not systematic reviews of the science. These are not looking at what is the threshold of harm to the brain. They haven't looked at all of that. They've said that the only effect is heating, the behavioral effects based on these studies done decades ago. It's really not acceptable. So I think that's a key piece of the of raising awareness of what ICNIRP is.
Exactly. Yes. Thank you very much.
Tuzé?
Hello, Theodora. It's a real pleasure to get you with us. And we thank you for all the work you are doing in the last years, you and Deborah, of course. And I profit to tell you something. Inside the radiation protection societies, that means societies working with ionization radiation, That means inside the FRALC, that is the Latin American Federation of Society of Radioprotection. That means inside the IRPA, you know, IRPA was the creator of the ICNIRP. Well, we are working hard to prepare some materials, some new rules to really change the situation in the near future. And we really believe that we can succeed. And then we will contact you and all your this forum in very soon. But that is the message I want to tell you, and tell you again, thank you for all the work you are performing. Thank you.
Oh, my thanks to you for everything that you are doing.
Thank you. Now we invite Emmanuel to make your question.
Hi, Diana. How are you?
Good.
It's nice to see you again. I want to also congratulate you for all the work you've done throughout the years. And I want to ask you about the new one. It's not new. The WHO task group on radio frequency. You know, I think today is the deadline for applications. What's your opinion on that? You think that could be a new way to look at the situation, or maybe is it just more of the same?
Well, we have written to the WHO asking for how they are doing, like who is picking the people and the scientists and experts who are going to be on those panels. We've gotten no response. We've repeatedly written asking this question. So, a systematic review is only as good as the scientists who are putting it forward and independent in that regard. And I am very concerned about what this will mean, because certainly scientists who we work with are applying. They were rejected in the past. Will they be picked now? I don't know, but I don't understand how anyone is even being picked to be on these panels. So we are very concerned about what is going on, because the lack of transparency is egregious. And I would like to add that the International Commission for Non-Ionizing Radiation Protection, of which many members are on the WHO in the systematic reviews, or at least the papers that have been published about what their plans are. But ICNIRP is also, we saw on their website that they are putting forward they're coming together to talk about impacts to the environment, birds, bees, and trees, because they are very aware that that is the Achilles heel. That is an important issue that hasn't been addressed. And this is concerning us too, is that how are they now going to have a stance on this? And who are the wildlife biologists that are even involved in it? I don't know that there will be any who are working on it in ICNIRP, but they might come out with a stance, which we expect might simply say there's no proof of harm, which is their line, which is unacceptable when it comes to protecting public health and the environment, of course.
Thank you, Theodora. Now we read.
Can I just say something, Emmanuel, very quickly?
Of course.
Yeah, because Professor Lechinsky tweeted something a while ago, and he's quoting, says, WHO shall not in any way be obliged to reveal or discuss with any applicant how an expression of interest was assessed, or to provide any other information relating to the evaluation / selection process, or to state the reasons for not choosing a member. Close quotes. So maybe that's, that's just to add to your comment. Thank you.
That's right. And these systematic reviews, the WHO has been trying to do this for years. Dr. Leonard Hardell has a paper called the World Health Organization, A Hard Nut to Crack, that details all of this, as well as the lack of transparency behind the fact sheets. But he talks about in his paper how they tried to do this, but then they put forward documents for review that didn't even have the conclusions in them for public comment. How can you get a comment on something when you don't even put forward what the conclusions are? So this process has been conflicted for years, and we don't have evidence that there's going to be a change in that process, but we will see, because the WHO's rules have changed. So we'll see what happens. You can go to Environmental Health Trust at ehtrust.org and see the letters written to the WHO Van Deventer about this, and she has not answered any questions. We also filed to the WHO Ethics Board and haven't heard anything back either. That's unacceptable. We should at least get a response from scientists about how they are choosing or what is the process. But there's been no response.
Thank you. Now we'll read a question here from Professor Álvaro de Sales. Teodora, what procedures could be done in view of the very rapid installation of the 5G technology in many countries?
Wow, well, and thank you so much for all your work. I have learned so much from Professor from Álvaro Sales, and so I think what we need to do is continue the work and bring forward the calls to halt 5G, which have been brought forward by scientists all over, so that educating local governments that safety is not assured. And 5G is going to use not only the low band and mid band, but the higher frequencies as well. And now there is research looking at impacts to insects, finding that those higher frequencies can be more absorbed into the bodies of insects. How is that acceptable? That's one piece. In addition, the lower frequencies, there's going to be a proliferation of antennas. I think that what procedures that can be done is what people are doing and doing more of it. Calling for accountability. If they're going to put something up, it should be safe. It should be shown to be safe from research that has shown safety. That doesn't exist right now.
Thank you. Another question from Valeria. Do you know if there are any standing lawsuits over 5G deployment anywhere in the US for violation of Nuremberg Code, informed consent, and precautionary principle? And how do you feel about sending government agencies notifications of liabilities as the initial form of action? Congratulations and thank you so much for all your work. Valeria from Panama.
Oh, thank you, Valeria. I don't know about any lawsuits specifically for those, but that doesn't mean that they don't exist. There are various lawsuits that have moved forward. Some are stalled, some have been unsuccessful. We did have success with a smart meter installation where what was happening was they were making all of the utility meters to be smart meters, and the ruling by the court was that you don't have to be forced to accept the smart meter. So, you know, it's been a challenge. A lot of the times cell towers individually are stopped because there's a problem in the process of putting it up, but that has nothing to do with the wireless radiation. It has to do with the companies didn't give notice or they didn't follow the proper procedure. So I think it depends on each case. But we're still pretty early on in terms of law. It's really new law is happening now in the United States. And now, and you know, something interesting happened. There was a cell tower site in California that was very contested in Sacramento. And I was told since our court win, and I need to find out more about why and how, and if there's another reason this happened, but the antenna itself was turned off. There have been many cases where wireless antennas have been moved, and many cases where people have not been successful in moving antennas. So we have a long way to go on that front.
Thank you very much. Someone has a question? Well, now we are talk a little bit about why give this award. For us, it's very important to recognize the organizations and the groups that are moving forward this very important subject, and that's creating a better future for the next generations. And we are very proud to give this award. And now we're gonna show our small presentation. Just a second. And with this, we thank you very much, and also Deborah. Maybe we can watch Deborah again. Can we watch the video?
Accept this first award from Slowphone Brazil. I'm so sorry I cannot be with you today to accept this first award from Slowphone Brazil. Theodora Scarrato, our executive director, and all of us at the Environmental Health Trust are really grateful to each one of you for making it possible to create this broad public understanding that we all need to be slower and more thoughtful in the way we think about and use technology, so that technology serves us rather than we serving technology. It does take a village to accomplish this, and I'm grateful that Alvaro de Salas and our colleague Claudio Fernandez are also playing such a key role in promoting awareness of this issue. Again, thank you so much, and my special thanks to Theodora Scarrato, without whom none of this would have been possible. All the best to you.
So that's for you guys to keep going your very important work and to not put down your arms. And your work is very important for us in Brazil, in many countries. So we send you a lot of energy, a lot of happiness and joy to go forward. And thank you very much for your existence and for your work.
Well, thank you so much. I truly am really honored, and I want to say you are setting an example for other countries and communities about raising awareness on this issue, because this is the only way forward, right? I mean, we cannot trade the health of our children and our environment, our birds, bees, and trees for the profit of these corporations. And ultimately, safe technology is the way forward, and we will get there. So thank you for everything that you're doing and for recognizing our work. And we hope that we can continue to collaborate and learn from the work you're doing as well, and showcase your work, and also provide whatever resources we can provide. That's how we're going to get there, is all working together. So thank you.
Thank you. We invite now our partners or colleague, if you want to say a last message. Can we start? Felix, you didn't say anything. You want to say something?
Yeah, sorry for I'm late. So I missed the presentation, but I'm very honored to have you here, and thank you so much for your work. And also, I think it would be great if we could collaborate somehow in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Josefa?
Thank you for inspiring us today, Theodora, to keep on going. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Tuze? Oh, sorry. Go again. Una vez más.
Your micro is off.
Tuze.
Thank you with our heart.
Thank you. Laura, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you really very, very much. I really appreciate and admire your work, and Deborah Davies' work. I think Environmental Health Trust is a very important reference. I have to say that a lot of the information I get is from you. And I also appreciate that you have a little section that has some material in Spanish. And I also, well, I once wrote you, and now you can have my info. Maybe later Fabian can send you my email. I volunteered to translate, so if you need some help for materials or flyers, we are a big team, so I'm sure we can help. Thank you very much, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Raul, Emmanuel, Mario, want to say something? Last message.
Yes. Again, thank you to Laura, and please give our thanks to Dr. Davis, and thank you for showing us the way. And I hope in our countries we can replicate what you have done, and hopefully get the same or better results. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Also, many thanks. I think that this is maybe one beginning. I really appreciate that maybe in the next time we will have maybe, why not, a lot of judiciary actions against the regulatory bodies in each country, not solely in the States. And I think that maybe this is the beginning of a lot of actions from our organization against our local regulatory bodies. That's many things, but this is just the beginning.
Yes. Thank you.
Fabiano?
Go ahead.
Well, beauty is not beautiful because it lasts. But let's hope your work lasts much longer, Theodora. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So that's it. Thank you very much for everyone who joined us. Here we are with many people from Latin America for Safe Technology. That's a network that we created this year. And I remember I believe in month of August, when we received the news of the situation with FCC, we felt a lot of good vibe, good energy coming from you, and our work like strengthened in this month. I remember, I think it was August, right?
Yes. August.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was very marking for me, that moment. So Theodora, send a hug to Deborah, a hug for you, a hug for all you guys. Muchas gracias, obrigado, thank you. Here's the website of Environmental Health Trust, ehtrust.org. You can have very nice graphic and designs for printables. A lot, most in English, but also there's some in Spanish and some in Portuguese. So you can go in this very good website. Bye, people. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.